Hello, everyone. So this is my second Easter video, and now we're going to be talking about 5 steps to setting up an effective crisis communications team. So let's get into that. And I'm going to make this, it's all really going to be really short videos, but I hope they'll be useful for you. So, if you want to set up a crisis communications team, and I always like to say this, people think that the same team that they use normally for campaigns is the team you can use for crisis communications. I really need to, I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but no, you can't. You can't because you can't because the skills are completely different. If you're used to doing campaigns, telling good news stories and everything, communications in crisis is a different thing. It's just completely different. It's completely different. It's not as sensitive. You don't have to pick your words as carefully. Then, in a campaign, if you use a wrong word, well, although any communications is sensitive, but it's different from when there's an active problem and you're now putting out messaging to make things better. In a campaign, if you use the wrong word, then you're the one that caused the drama. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're the source and you should be able to walk it back. But imagine having to communicate when there is problem, there is a huge issue. So there's already an issue on ground. So people are expecting that you should be communicating mindful of the fact that there is already an issue on ground. So what you say, how you say it, when you say it, where you say it, to who says it, how, everything is going to be interpreted in a million ways. So you had better make sure you really know what you're doing. So people who, if you want to have an effective crisis communications team, you need to have a team that understands that sensitivity. That's the point I'm trying to make. And that's why we keep talking about training and training and training, because a campaign team, I've seen it happen before where, this happens a lot in politics, where people have a political campaign team. If you do not have a political issues team that understands how to communicate in issues, you find out that when the issues come, they're all scrambling. This happens a lot in the political setting. When the campaign goes wrong or they lose an election, then you just see them, they don't even know what to say, because all they knew how to do was to sell the candidate. Now that there's an issue, they don't know what to do because they've not been trained. That's not part of their training. So anyway, this is supposed to be about effective setting up a team. So if you want to set up a team, the most important thing, step one, appoint a trained and skilled crisis communications lead with mastery in strategic communications and reputation risk management. You see that? So it has to be somebody who understands how to manage reputation risk, the very troublesome side of communications. Because I see that a lot of us professionals, communications professionals, we're more comfortable with the good, happy, good, go lucky, nice, new sort of thing. Some of us like the difficult space, So you have to get that kind of person as your crisis communication lead. Again, this is if you're setting up a team where the stakes are really high. Then number two, or rather you are working in a context where you really need to have this, I will always advise you have a crisis communications team trained and activated, ready to go at any point in time, particularly if you're an agenda setting organization, and then have your campaign people doing their normal things. And then you decide, from there may be some people from the campaign side who, like when I mean campaign, people who normally do your events and you're happy, your good news comes for you, who are also part of your crisis comms team, but you need to train them for them to stay in those roles. And I will say this because I've run a large communications team before, and I know that it's not everybody that you select into your crisis communications team for organizational reasons, for resource reasons, but also because certain types of skills, you need people who are a bit more assertive and who even like to do this sort of thing. Because that's another thing. If you don't like to do it, then you're not going to. There's no point appointing somebody who doesn't have the aptitude, does not have the interest, doesn't is not interested in going through that whole learning curve to see what that is like. So appoint roles for media and social media strategists. Most times they're not the same type of people, so don't ever deceive yourself that anybody that understands traditional media will understand social media as well. Those people, they hardly ever exist. Anyway, you can challenge me in the comments, but that's my view. So internal communications, if you need that role, creative design, social media listening, stakeholder audience mapping and analysis. I can't talk too much in detail in this video about these roles. These are some of the things that we talk about in our courses, our course which is going to come up on the 24th of April. And but I can't go too much into detail about this because I want to make this a relatively short video. But yes, that's generally the critical roles that you would expect. So again, number three, Agree a protocol for activation and train the team accordingly. So you need to be able to determine within yourself that if things, when do I know that we're in a crisis mode? How do we activate it? And when we activate it, who do I call that then triggers everybody? It should be your crisis communications lead anyway. But that whole protocol should be part of the training. You actually need to train a team. I'm telling you, it's not something you just say, oh, nominate them and then go and sit down. You don't have a team. The team needs to be trained. And if somebody drops off or moves on to something else, you get somebody else. Again, I will say this, if you're an agenda setting organization, if you're also a political candidate, you need to have this crisis communications team trained ahead of time. You know what I mean? You can't wait until the time. The same thing if you're an organization that is in any of these industries that are high risk, like energy, health sector, even if you don't have the resource in-house, take it from outside, let them come in, help them to understand the risk exposure, the reputational risk exposure that you face, the kind of issues that normally come up that may potentially go into a crisis. They will also share some of their experiences. Just let that whole if you have a communications agency that you're working with, let there be an understanding as part of the retainership that there is an arm of them will work in crisis situation, and these are the people. Choose and select the team. That's the point, because if you do not select and you do not select for these roles, the agency will not be able to make that judgment call for you. You need to know what you need and then make sure that you have those skills already written down in terms of these are the sort of skills that we're looking for. And this is what we expect them to be able to do in a crisis situation. And this is how we're going to activate them. So you train the team, the agency, and all of that. You can also get a crisis management expert to do that if you don't have those skills, crisis communications expert, but then let them be there. That's the way it's done. You train them in anticipating when you will need them. Then you conduct simulations to validate expertise. This is also very important. I mean, I worked in an organization where we did this annually, where we would validate, we would train, we would nominate, we would for specific roles, we would select, agree the protocol for activation, and then train the team. We would train the crisis communications support team, and we will validate their exercise, do a simulation where we will watch how everybody brings their things into room. We'll have trained them first of all that okay, if there's a crisis, this is what we expect the media strategists to do. This is what we expect the social media strategists to do. This is what we also expect internal comms, creative design, all of that. We'd have done the training on that. We'll have agreed that. Then we'll do a simulation after the training to see how they are able to actualize those skills in real life. And then when there is time, we deploy that. When there's an issue or a crisis or a near crisis, which sometimes happens, you deploy the team, you observe how they do, and then you improve based on feedback and results. That's the way it's done. These are typical. This is the 5-step setup and effective crisis communication. There's no other time, and the best time to set it up is before crisis hits. So now, so don't wait until. You know what I mean? If you don't have it, and if you don't have it, you will not be able to set this up in the middle of a crisis. It's rare that you be if you have to work with what you have then, and then yes, you may then make some of the common mistakes that I did in the earlier video. So anyway, that's it for now. And 5 steps to setting up an effective crisis communications team. Please let me know if this is helpful. Please subscribe to our channel and click the bell button so that I can be notified when we upload a new video. I hope this was useful for you, and let us know in the comments. And also, I hope you'll be able to join us on the 24th of April. Registration details are there. Registration and enrollment ends in a couple of days. So I hope to see you. And please subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.